So I guess I can talk about Seiji Tanaka real quick from Keiji Amatsuka. And it's about a high schooler named Nagato Tokioka. And he's essentially, your typical slacker. He doesn't really want to do anything but just, sit around at home playing video games, sort of aimless as far as like what his career goals should be. He's considered, the 65th generation slacker or something weird like that. Some funny title like that. But, as it turns out, he's actually in 20 years supposed to be the company president of basically a company that that basically manages time travel and makes it profitable. Because I guess in the future people can actually use time travel for really useful things like accident insurance and receiving parcels in the mail and stuff like that by using time travel, and it's really interesting stuff like that. And we know this because his secretary, Seiji Tanaka, comes back from the future in time to basically, protect Tokioka from people from a rival company that essentially steals all of his technology and his employees for their own personal gain. And they're basically coming back in time to try to kill him so that he can't ever start up his company.
No, their goal is mainly to own the concept of the time machine outright. So they're going to kill him and then take credit for the idea themselves.
Exactly. Thank you. And basically throughout all this, you have Tanaka being the best secretary ever, protecting Tokioka with as many interesting battle tactics like throwing business cards at people. And it's... I'm sorry. It's I couldn't finish that without just giggling to myself, because it's this series so far has a lot of really cool but stupid things like that, where Tanaka obviously takes being Tokioka's secretary very seriously, and he has a lot of really interesting really cool but really stupidly mundane tactics like that. Like I said, throwing business cards at people, stamping people with his seal of approval, and a lot of really again, stupid stuff like that. But throughout all this, basically Tokioka finds it in himself the motivation to want to start up this company and, make double what he was already going to make in the future. Essentially, because I think Tanaka mentions that he makes 50 trillion yen or something, but Tokioka decides, well, you know what? I'm going to do even better and make 100 trillion yen in, stuff like that. So he finally finds the motivation to actually start up this company in the future. And basically from there, they have to find the three people that are considered illuminaries and very influential in the future that help him start up this company. And that's basically kind of the premise of the series going forward so far. And so I guess, Sid, what did you think of Seiji Tanaka so far?
Well, it's kind of interesting because my immediate thoughts when seeing the character design of Seiji Tanaka was, oh wow, this is basically a Sakamoto fanfic. Haven't you heard? I'm Sakamoto. This is a spin-off where Sakamoto is a secretary, and basically Seiji Tanaka is as crazy, ridiculous, and good at everything as Sakamoto from that series. I mean, it's not just in the looks, just everything he does and his straightforward seriousness and deadpan mannerisms, even when doing eccentric, crazy things, it's just pretty much dead on that exact same character.
Actually, I totally did not make that connection, and I feel stupid for not thinking about that because, yeah, that's actually really what this is. But what I like about Seiji Tanaka compared to Sakamoto is that, and I'm not sure if I've had the chance to say this on the show or not, but I'm actually not super into Sakamoto personally because I don't know what it is. I think I have a really hard time getting in the series in particular that are where the comedy is supposed to come from one joke, and I don't know, that might just come down to my taste in humor. like, and I know people might say the same thing about stuff like, One Punch Man or something, but like the difference between like, I guess, Seiji Tanaka and Sakamoto, I mean, how do I say this? I like Seiji Tanaka kind of has that same thing going where it's like you said, oh, well, he's basically like really good at everything and can do no wrong. And he's basically the best at what he does. But I think what this has that Sakamoto didn't have for me is that I think there is a potentially really strong emotional core to the series, and where, like, obviously, I think it's safe to say that Tanaka has a really strong relationship with Tokioka, because he goes on about how, like, how he believes in Tokioka, and how, like, he knows Tokioka better than anyone because, he's his secretary. I don't know, like, I could see down the line there being some kind of, like, I don't know, maybe some kind of, like, sad, tragic backstory as to, like, how, like, Tanaka and Tokioka met, and how Tanaka, like, became his secretary, something like that. I feel like there's probably, like, I think there's more to that relationship that we're not seeing at the moment, and I'm really interested in maybe finding out more about the relationship and how it, like, formed.
I wasn't necessarily too impressed with the connection between Tanaka and Tokioka. Like, I wouldn't, like, would find it so endearing that it made me sold on the series, but I do really like the sentiments that Tanaka really believes in Tokioka, and that inspires Tokioka to kind of get his act together and try really hard. And so the second chapter is probably my favorite of the three, because Tokioka really buckles down and does an insane assignment in one night, which is like many years worth of assignments. It's like this giant stack of papers, in order to just accomplish the goal of finding the potential World Street member in their school. He manages to do this task, even though he's a notorious slacker, even though he's not a very studious student. He does it. He completes his assignment in one night, because he's, like, that dedicated, and that he believes in it that much. And he also does twice the work in the end. So I actually was really impressed by Tokioka as a character more than Tanaka, because even though he was established as this kind of goofball slacker, I think you see through these three chapters glimpses of the fact that, oh, this guy is really hardworking, and he's actually a lot smarter, or can be a lot smarter than he lets on when he really applies himself.
Exactly, yeah. But I guess, yeah, as far as, like, the comparisons between this and, like, Sakamoto goes, because it's not entirely the same concept, but they have, like, They have similar, I guess, aspects to both of them. Again, where they're dealing with characters that basically can just do anything. But like I said, I feel like there's potential for a really good emotional narrative for Seiji Tanaka somewhere down the line, in some way, shape, or form. Whether it be, I guess, Tokioka's growth as a character, or us finding out more about, whatever relationship Tokioka has with Tanaka and whatnot. Like, I think there's a lot of potential for some really interesting character stuff down the line there. And also something I didn't notice until I kind of reread these three chapters was that, cause I don't think we talked about this, but on a recent, like, cover of Shonen Jump, they had all of their current authors basically, I'm going to assume, draw characters that, like, inspire them in their work. Like, you had, like, Oda draw Luffy, and, You mean Oda draw Goku? Yeah, sorry. Oda draw Goku.
Although it might as well just be Luffy wearing a wig.
I guess, can you blame me? But yeah, basically all these different authors drawing the characters that supposedly probably, like, really inspired them in their work. And I thought it was interesting that the author of Seiji Tanaka drew Ichigo.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was just kind of interested, like, oh, okay, he's a fan of Bleach. That's kind of interesting. But, like, rereading these chapters, like, it's really easy to see, like, how much he's influenced by Kubo's art, because I feel like there are a lot of similarities between both this and, like, Kubo's art. In like the way, like, he'll like bold out like certain speech bubbles, and just the way he can go from like minimalistic art as far as like the comedy and gags go to like really serious, really cool looking action panels, and just a lot of really interesting like nuances in his art that I think Kubo had as well.
Yeah, there's a rough, sharp looseness to the art, which is what I think of when I think of Bleach. Like, every pose the character makes is dynamic, but also the angles he draws, his line work is very sharp and angular.
Yeah, and just the way, like, he uses, like, shading and shadows and whatnot, to kind of cover up his characters. Like, that's like the kind of stuff I would expect to see from Bleach.
But also the way he uses simplicity. There's several panels where he just draws Tokioka's head as an outline almost. He doesn't like put in many of the features, just like the bare essentials to indicate here are his eyes and here are his mouth and an outline of his ear. And I really thought that was very interesting about the artwork of the series, is that the mangaka was just so confident in like just using the visual shorthand for here is this character, you know what he looks like, here is me like simplifying him to like the most simplest extent, and you're still getting all the emotion you need out of the character without me having to draw in every detail of his features. I thought that was a very interesting choice, and I think it really does accentuate the comedy when he employs that style.
No, yeah, so yeah, it was just kind of surprising to me, like on my second reread, how much Amatsuka's art just really reminded me of Kubo's in a lot of places. You could tell he takes a lot of influence from him. I guess one other thing that like kind of surprised me was that, and I guess, you know, if you don't want to be spoiled, you skip ahead like a minute or two, but I really like that twist at the end of chapter 3 where it turns out, you know, because they're basically looking for one of the world's 3, you know, essentially the person who like ends up actually inventing time travel. And yeah, it turns out that because of like, you know, they basically read their person's like kanji wrong, you know, they end up finding like the wrong person at first, and then it turns out at the end of the 3rd chapter like, oh, okay, well this is the person that we're supposed to be looking for, and it turns out to be, you know, this girl that you know, Tokioka kind of likes, you know, Akari, I think her name is.
Yeah.
I really like that twist in that, like, you know, because the original person they found, and I forget his name, and I don't really care. He's so like, you know, I should have seen it coming that like he wasn't going. He didn't look like the kind of person to like invent such like advanced technology. Like, I kind of like the twist where it's like, oh, we actually have like a potential interesting like female lead here who can actually like invent really cool things. So I really like that idea in general.
Yeah, I like her character, that when she gets serious and like really like into her inventing and, you know, just gets a more assertive, aggressive mindset, you know. I like that attitude she can get. You know, she starts out, you know, she's kind of meek and she's kind of not passive, but she's not very like confrontational. She's kind of like worried a little bit, but you know, once she gets into the swing of like, okay, you know, I'll get serious now, tie up my hair, and then she builds this insane robot that shoots laser beams, which is awesome. But then she goes like and threatens like the fake Genai guy with the drill, and she's like, a punk like you doesn't get to tell me what's impossible. And yeah, that was badass. That was awesome. And I was like, yeah, cool. This character seems like she has a lot of potential.
Yeah, so I really appreciated that twist. But yeah, I think overall, like, I didn't know how I felt about this series at first, just because of like how over the top it was. But honestly, like, I kind of want to read more of it. I at least want to see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, this is a series I'd keep reading, which, I mean, for me, like, I read everything in Jump, so it's like, if they ran it, I would just read it just naturally. But I don't know if I'm, like, that compelled to. And see, the thing, chapter 3 ended off in a place where, like, oh, okay, I want to see more of this character. Because now I'm, like, interested in, okay, how does she invent the time machine? And, like, how is she gonna interact within this group now, and what are the other two like if this character is like this? So, I guess I am interested in like seeing who the other worlds 3 are, and then where the story goes a little bit. But I guess I'm not. It's like, oh yeah, my attitude is like, oh yeah, I'm interested in where this is going, but I'm not like, oh my god, I need to read this. I need to know where this is going. It's more like, yeah, this is enjoyable, and I'll keep reading it, but I'm just not feeling compelled to read it. I'm not feeling that itch that I want to. That I want to like have more of this in my life necessarily.
So it's not like on the level of Act Age, let's say, where it's like, man, I just want to read this forever.
Yeah, Act Age, that's what Act Age left me. It was like, oh my god, I need more of this. And I'm not like, oh my god, I need more of Seiji Tanaka. I'm like, oh, I still read this if Jump ran it. I am interested in seeing where it could go. So it's like way more tempered of a reaction.
I could see that. And I mean, like, I think it's safe to say that I'm probably at least a little more interested than you are personally, but like, I'm also, I don't know, it's really hard for me to describe. Like, I'm not necessarily like, I guess I'm not necessarily like really itching for it either, but like, I like it enough to where like, I think it has a lot of potential, and I would actually like if this were picked up, I would probably actually read it week to week, which is saying much because like, I'm very, personally, I like to think I'm very picky about what I read week to week. If something really just does not.
You don't read everything in Jump.
I was gonna say anything. I don't know. Like I'm very picky about what I read week to week, because it's like I don't know. Like, this is sort of exaggerated, but like I feel like that's my time that I'm giving to a series, and if I'm going to be giving my time to something that I'm that I have to read weekly, then, just personally, I want it to be something that I know I'm going to enjoy, or that I at least am going to have interest in. So that's why I'm kind of picky with my stuff. But, again, I like it enough to where I would read it week to week if I had the option to. But I can understand you not being like super engaged with it. But, yeah, I don't know. I thought this was enjoyable though. I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.